The More Than Numbers podcast.
But it's also the ongoing maintenance of that. Are you happy to pass that control?
The old shoebox full of receipts.
Make decisions as and when. Do they need to put another shift on? Do they need to put another production line on?
If they are used correctly, in theory they should be quite easy, but it's not as easy as they put.
Where are the jobs? Who's putting time on the jobs?
If you are struggling, asking people like ourselves to help you.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of More Than Numbers. We're here with part 2 of our technology exploration of all things technology in the accountancy industry.
The More Than Numbers podcast.
Steve, we touched very briefly in the first part of this about the cloud and the difference between being cloud-based and on-site based. But can you go into a bit more of the pros, the cons of cloud?
I mean, the first question people normally ask me onto the cloud is, how much is it going to cost? The cloud tends to be a totally different sort of pricing model that you get on the traditional, where you're paying for software licenses, a big outlay. Then usually there's an annual sort of maintenance charge that comes along with that. Cloud tends to be a monthly subscription. You need to read the terms as to whether you actually own that software or are you just renting it. And then what happens at the end of that, you will agree a term. It may be open-ended, but what happens at the end of that term? What happens to your data? What happens to the system? Can you still access it? So the advantage there is obviously cash flow. So you're paying less sometimes over a longer term though, and it's not a big outlay up front. So it just, again, that's just down to personal preference. How good's your internet is fairly basic. If you're going on the cloud, if your internet's slow and unreliable, should you be doing it? Or are you looking at getting in lease lines? There are costs associated with that. And again, ongoing rental costs as well as maintenance. So how good is your internet? The flip side of that is if your internet becomes unavailable at the office, you go somewhere else and get on the internet because your server is somewhere else. So actually doing the changeover itself is another thing to consider. Yes, I've got my system at the moment, but I need to get that onto a remote server somewhere. What's the downtime? What's the steps involved in doing that? Can it even be transferred? And that's as basic as it gets, because if it can't, maybe the cloud's not for you, or you've got to look at a cloud-based solution.
And is it such a big thing as people imagine, changing from an on-site server to a cloud server?
Depends on the systems you're running,
right, okay.
I guess. The clients we deal with that are doing that is that nothing happens until we answer those questions for them. The ones we've been involved with, the answer to that question is no, because we've eased them through that journey. Sometimes you get unexpected bumps on the road or unexpected costs, but you usually not. We're experienced enough to be able to help them, manage that process.
Brilliant. Anything else with the cloud as to why you'd particularly want to go on the cloud?
I would suggest that the security is usually better on the cloud. Usually a lot better, because it has to be. If you're looking after clients' data somewhere else, you're not the systems that you're putting them on, they've got to be of the highest spec. But it's also the ongoing maintenance of that. Yes, you could put a system in today, but in this world of ours, where it's out of date tomorrow, or the hackers of this world are always seem to be one step ahead. So therefore, the cloud's security, firewalls, the antivirus, the cyber essentials security has to be top notch. And that problem of maintenance, if you've moved to the cloud, is not your problem. So therefore, your in-house IT costs can be less. They'll be different. There will be in-house IT costs, but you don't necessarily need in-house IT people, because again, that is someone else's problem. But I guess the choice really between the two is your thoughts as a business owner, business manager, is control. Are you happy to pass that control to someone else on someone else's system?
It's quite a big thing for somebody to do, isn't it?
It is a big thing, yes, yeah. But typically I'm finding the younger generation are more comfortable with that. Is what they've grown up with, what they're used to.
Yeah.
My colleague Ben is a prime example. So, but it comes down to, I suppose, we've got to shell out £8,000-10,000 on a new server now that's beyond its economic life, or can I look at moving to the cloud? And I would I would suggest yes, in this case, not only for financial reasons, but the security tends to be more up to date.
But picking up on one of the things that you mentioned earlier, really important that you read those T's and C's.
Read the T's and C's.
Really important.
Don't just tick the box. but again, we can help you through that process.
Yeah.
So the sort of cloud contracts we put in place are 30-day rolling monthly contracts.
Okay.
So we're not looking to tie people into 3 years, 5 years, whatever.
And what is the difference? You mentioned about whether you rent or own. What's kind of the difference there and the implications of that?
Well, if I give you an example, that we're long-time Pegasus software providers. That they do both models. So if you're purchasing the software, you're purchasing the licenses. You own the licenses in perpetuity. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So that software is yours forever. Even if you don't have the ongoing updates, the software is still yours. As long as you can find hardware to run it on, it will still run. You will still get activation codes from Pegasus. So that will still run because it's your software. The flip side of that is if you're renting it, you don't own the software. So some people like the comfort of, if you're tied into a terms, 36 months, at the end of that 36 months, you can say, thank you very much, I'm off to use another bit of software, or that you just take out, agree another term. So, but it's a subtle point that the software works exactly the same. There's no differences whatsoever, but you own the software or do you rent it? Yeah. So again, we're back to the T's and C's.
And then in terms of some of the industry-specific challenges that you deal with your clients, I know you've got a lot of manufacturing clients. What are some of the challenges that they see and that you're helping them through?
Well, typically it's sort of like manufacturing. It's managing the life of the transaction. So you're quoting for a job. It might not even be a customer at that point. It's a prospective customer. So with that quote, you gets accepted. You get an order. It's then into your manufacturing system. You've got to plan that production. You've got to schedule the production. You've got to be placing your orders at the right time to be able to deliver whatever it is you're manufacturing at the end. So typically we work with Access Factory Master for manufacturing solution. Once the product's been delivered, it then gets invoiced, and then it's looking to drop into an accounting software. So again, we're seeing the life of the transaction all the way through. We deal with a lot of businesses, say distribution, where they're buying items in, putting them on the shelf, and then selling them, which is absolutely fine. But it is the manufacturing that sort of sits in the middle. Once you've bought all the bits to make whatever it is you're actually selling at the end, it's the whole management of that. Once it drops onto the factory floor, you're then into shop floor data collection. So where are my jobs? Who's putting time on the jobs? When as the job goes through its stages of manufacture, it's got to be inspected. So quality assurance comes into play. Are we accepting the work? Are we rejecting it? Does it need reworking? Those sort of scenarios. And management wants their information, throughout that manufacturing process, just to find out they're delivering. What they're delivering is of the right quality. Is it being delivered on time? So those sort of problems that you come across that we need to find solutions for.
Yeah, and any kind of, I suppose, ways to make that as efficient as possible as well. So making sure that that's as automated as it possibly can be, while still providing the right information.
Yeah, that's where having screens or PCs dotted around the sort of the production process, where typically example of automation is barcoding the process. So job cards get scanned onto jobs. Employees are scanning their time onto jobs, off to jobs, and again gathering that information, and that all comes back into the accounting software for management to make decisions as and when. Do they need to put another shift on? Do they need to put another production line on? Are the lines producing? Yes. Are we on budget? Are we over budget? All those questions, really. Yeah.
And what about construction? Because that's another industry that sometimes has its own unique challenges. And I know that Pegasus does have a product for construction industry. How are the sort of issues that you're finding there?
Construction is, like you say, it has its own challenges. So again, we're down to sort of project management with contractors, subcontractors, and all the legalities around returns and payments to subcontractors. Typically, retentions come into play, and those need to be managed. Applications for payments, certifications for payments. Pegasus has a software called CIS, which stands for Construction Industry Solution, which manages all those processes within the job. Typically, the plant hire, you don't need to hire a plant for a job. If so, where am I getting it from? And hire it onto the job, and I've got to take it off hire and return it. So again, the CIS solution manages all those particular areas.
I suppose we come back to, as the business grows, it needs often a lot more than just an accounting solution. It needs other technology that sits around that. But obviously, as you said, I think in the first part of this discussion about making sure you've got one source of truth, and that often is the accounting data.
That's it, yeah. Again, to just take the construction industry, typically what people will do is they're getting into it. I'll have a spreadsheet for this job and a spreadsheet for that job and then all of a sudden they're updating. Yeah, they've made one purchase or maybe hire of some equipment, and hang on, I've got to put that through my accounting software. Then I've got to update these spreadsheets, and very easily you can get out of sync. So it's about finding the right solution, so that. Ideally, the customer just wants to be putting the transaction on once, and all those areas are updated for them and in real time. So again, managers on the jobs, directors of companies can see where they are on their jobs, what my costs so far, what have I invoiced so far, am I above budget, over budget, what are my costs to complete. So it's about then sort of, but we come back sort of before then, so finding out what is the information the management team want, and if that's what they want, then yes, we can put a solution in for them. Or if it's not quite right, what are we going to do about it? The softwares we provide can be bespoke and changed. We ideally don't want to bespoke anything. Let's go with as standard as we can out of the box. But we all know businesses that, in terms of bookkeeping requirements and management information requirements, 90% of them are the same. But it's about that 10% that makes that company different. Yeah. So how do we handle that through the systems that we're looking to put in place for them?
Ben, your automation on the sorts of clients that you're dealing with, we spoke quite a lot about that in the first part of this, but I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things about the receipts in particular and the ability to scan those receipts on your phone, something that we all have with us all the time, and making sure that we're capturing that information in real time, because it's quite easy. It could be forgotten, put in a shoebox. It used to happen.
So, I think as touched on before, if you're constantly keeping on top of all your receipts, I mean, it can only be beneficial to you. Now, the other benefit of scanning on the go is you've got the benefit of you've always got a copy of that receipt. So if that goes missing somewhere, you can go back to where we scanned it to using whatever app, and it's always there. And it reduces clutter as well, so everyone might be aware of the old shoebox full of receipts. I mean, if you're taking pictures on the go and you keep yourself organised, then that's the thing of the past, really, because that will be all on your phone. Like you say, you've always got it on you, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, brilliant. I wanted to touch on Making Tax Digital. I mentioned it right at the start of part one, but we didn't cover it in too much detail. But it is something that is coming. It's been coming for quite a while. But we're finally at a point where we know a bit more about it. It is coming. Do you want to just kind of give a very brief overview of how that's going to impact particularly those smaller businesses?
So I think
traders.
I think a lot of people are probably unaware they've even got to do it. So, in effect, it's doing your tax returns on the go, if you like. So you've always got to be keeping on top of it, because they want their information quarterly. So
before we go further, this is just affecting those sole traders. It's not affecting companies. They will still do their corporation tax in the same way. So it is sole traders and those with rental income.
That's right.
Rental income.
These are the sorts of people that could really benefit from using the softwares, because as time goes on, we're understanding that they're going to be able to integrate with what we actually need to do for MTD. And it's going to be a task of basically keeping on top of all your receipts, all your banking, constantly on top of it, because that's what HMRC wants. So they've got the quarters, the quarter returns. So I think you can utilise these softwares that we've got to integrate with MTD, and using the softwares to take pictures of your invoices.
So obviously MTD, I don't think we've even said this, stands for Making Tax Digital.
Yes.
And it is for income tax, the one we're talking about. We've already got the one for
we've got VAT.
But it means that people have to use a compatible software. And so it's really important that this is an opportunity, not just to be compliant, but it is an opportunity to really be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a reason to go onto the softwares. But yeah, you've got to be compliant. And, you may have found that with companies, we've seen that they've got VAT and sole traders for that matter, that, if you're doing these things on the go, the return in effect should just fall out. So I think it's really important to get an understanding. And if you are struggling, asking people like ourselves to help you, and then you shouldn't really be having any issues with this MTD. It's just around the corner. Yeah,
but I suppose that is one of the things we say, it should just fall out.
Yes.
So the softwares aren't magic.
No, they're not. They're not.
There is a bit of effort that needs to go into it. So there are some dangers there.
Yeah. So they can only work with what you give it. I think we mentioned in the last episode, garbage in, garbage out. That's definitely the case. If they are used correctly, in theory they should be quite easy, but it's not as easy as they put say in the adverts. So I think you really need to take the time to consult someone like ourselves to make sure you're actually getting everything you need to be right. Ultimately, the more time you invest in understanding what you need to do, it will ease the process for just using the software, for whether it's for accounts or management accounts, or your VAT returns, or your income tax returns.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
I think I heard a wise man once say it's like a piano. You can get music out of it, but you've got to learn how to play the keys.
Exactly that, yeah.
So Ben, we've heard about how these softwares can work, etc., but the importance of getting it right from the get-go. So how do you typically help clients?
So I think it will often be based off what the client wants and their what they're capable of doing, whether it's time or place. I think what works well is if you set out in the first place instructions. You sit there with the client, whether it's online or in person, and show them what they need to do, the basics in general, and hopefully if they're taking the notes and taking it in, they should get the majority of it. But like every person, they're going to get a few things wrong. So I think just regular checkups, a package where they are happy to pick up the phone and speak to us, because that's what the client wants often, is to be able to speak to us. So yeah, just regular checkups monthly, and reviews as well. If if they ask us just to review the work and just pick out what they've got right, what they've got wrong, and often that is quite a boost going forward. If any problems are coming up, then they've got that fixed.
I think that's it. I mean, it is very much a process, isn't it? Yeah. So they can start sometimes with a lot of your assistants doing whatever it is, but then over a period of time it can move to us reviewing what they've done to then them trusting that what the software is telling them.
We've got clients at various stages of picking up the digitalisation. Some of them have been using it for a while now, quite happily just crack on in the background, and every now and then they might have a query and we just answer the query in effect. And then there's some that are just new to it, and we're constantly just hand-holding with them, because that's what they need to get what they want to get out of the software. And I think they will, I'm sure they'll reap the rewards down the line.
Well, ultimately it's about helping the clients achieve success, and that's what we feel really passionate about. And I think all we can do to help them, and that's where just pick up the phone if you've got any questions.
With the bigger systems that CK Systems put in, we always offer a support package with it. 3 flavours of that. The traditional, they pay an annual fee, or typically now it's paid monthly. for the traditional support, phone support, or we connect into the systems and talk them through it, help them through it. We do offer pay-as-you-go as well, so there's no agreement in place. Money doesn't really change hands until there's any support. They actually use the service. We do top up as well, where they can buy 4 or 5 hours in advance, and they sort of call that time off as and when, and that might last them 2 weeks. It might last them 2 years. Yeah, so it's about talking to the client what they want, really. Yeah.
And that changing over a period of time, it's not static, is it?
No, that's right. They can typically a site go that they don't know what the support's going to be, so they'll go with a fixed monthly cost for the first 12 months. Then again, we review it and have a look at what the usage is, and they might go with that again, or they might drop to pay as you go, or as I say, just buy a bank of hours and use it as and when.
I suppose one final question to both of you. What's been your biggest takeaway from your journey? I appreciate very different lengths of that journey. Steve, you've probably seen a lot more over your however many years, from first introducing software to where we are now. But what's been your biggest learning from that journey?
The one big learning point really is listen. Just listen to, go and see your clients regularly, listen to what they want, what are they trying to tell you that they're not actually saying. The sort of, and that comes from experience. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we both at CK and CK, we like to work collaboratively with the clients.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you get the real benefits, isn't it? And the real rewards, both ends. Yeah. Ben, what about you?
I think for me, being quite early on in my career, that I'm constantly finding new bumps along the way as I'm doing my work. But I think going through it and finding solutions to these, no doubt I'll be able to use the knowledge I've gained from it going forward for any more potential problems in the future, and just taking in expertise from my fellow colleagues. I mean, Steve's been around here for quite some time, but I'm sure he's got plenty of expertise I can learn from.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much. And thank you for joining us for this episode of More Than Numbers. That concludes our exploration of all things technology and digital. But as always, if anything has struck a chord with you, if anything that you want to ask questions on, we are always here to help. So please do get in touch with any of us here today, and we'd be more than happy to speak to you. But thank you so much for joining us.
The More Than Numbers podcast.